Okay, so now that I have some time to sit down and actually record this tutorial, I can walk you through what I've done and kind of begin to finalize this tutorial for the Marketplace app. Um, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. As mentioned when I started this tutorial for this particular application, one of the main things that I wanted to implement here was a method for calculating shipping rates. Since this is a marketplace app, then it's handy to be able to know how much you need to charge to ship something. There are various options out there that you can use for doing that, but Ship Engine is definitely the best one in my opinion. It's very robust, it gives you everything you need. Its API is really simple to use and understand. So that would be my suggestion is to use Ship Engine. You can sign up for free with them, and they give you a sandbox API key that you can play around with and see how things work. And then as far as pricing goes, I believe it's pretty reasonable. I haven't actually used Ship Engine in a public live setting because I haven't had a need for it. But I think it's all around a good deal. And aside from just calculating shipping rates, you can also do a whole bunch of other stuff with Ship Engine, such as preserve shipping rates to carry over between purchases. For a particular user, you can set up an automated process so that when they purchase an item and it does the calculations of the shipping rate and everything, it'll pass that to a label, so you can print off a label with all the correct information. So there's a lot of cool stuff it can do. But for this tutorial, all we're going to focus on is just calculating the shipping rate. As previously mentioned, Firebase does have an extension where you can install Ship Engine and do it that way. But I think using the API is probably a better way to go, especially if you're not using Firebase, or if in the future you think you might get away from Firebase and use something different, then you need to be familiar with how to use the API. All right, so let's go ahead and get in here. So this one up here is the one that I've already done. That's the operational one, and this one I'm just going to replicate what I did and show you the process, and that'll probably be the extent of this tutorial. We'll get on to other stuff in a different one. So for the API call name, you can name it whatever you want. I've already named that one up there, shipping rate, so I'm going to just do I'll just do shipping rate copy. All right, and when you create your account on Ship Engine, like I said, obviously it'll give you your sandbox API key that you can use, and then it's got a easy to find and easy to read page that has the different examples for the requests that you can do, and the information that you need to plug in over here and where to put it. So that's under the rate shipping section for the developer account. Something important to note, I'm going to carry this over here real quick. So this is inside Ship Engine in my account here. Something that's important to note is that when you open up and go into sandbox mode, it's automatically going to have these three carriers set up here. Stamps.com is for the United States Postal Service, so USPS, and then UPS, and then FedEx. I believe these are the only three you can use in Sandbox, but when you get ready to go live, if you want to use different ones on top of that, they've got a whole bunch through here, and you have to assign them as a carrier so that you can get the carrier ID, because you're going to need that to plug into your API. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So the method type is a post. So start there. The API URL that I'm using, which again is to calculate the rate, it's going to be this here, this one. It's https://api shipengine.com/v1/rates. So that's the URL that I need for this particular call that I'm trying to do here. And then I need to set up 3 headers for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just toss these in here real quick. So the first header that I'm actually going to put in here, I'm just going to copy and paste it, is going to be host:/API.shipengine.com. That'll be my first one. My second one, which I won't plug in entirely, but I will just go ahead and put it in there for reference. It would be, oops, looks like I didn't grab the A there. There we go. API-key : __. Well, no, get rid of the underscore. You don't need that. It would just be API-key : your API key here. So you get rid of all this and replace it with your API key. Whether that's your sandbox key or it's your live key, that would go there. And then the third box here is going to be this content type, but I believe that's just a filler. That's not actually written in there. So you can jump over to Ship Engine and grab that and copy it and paste it in there. All right, so those are the 3 headers that I need. So we're good to go there. So now I'm going to jump over here to the body. And the body will be a JSON. You can go ahead and open that up there, and it gives you a couple of brackets to work with, but you can get rid of those. And then you can just go back over here and copy and paste. So the example request that I'm going to be using, let's see here. Yeah, it's the very first one in the list that they give here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. If you're totally unfamiliar with API keys, like I said, you can get rid of that because we're not going to be, I'm just going to copy and paste. When you're looking at this API key, as a matter of fact, let me drag it over from Ship Engine here. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is what we're going to use here. And I'm going to add something in under here. Okay, sorry, my Firebase just did something weird. What was that? Stand by. Okay, I'm not really sure what just happened. My Firebase did something strange. So anyway, so this is what I'm going to be using for this particular API call. What I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to get the rate option for a particular carrier. I'm not going to utilize all 3 carriers. I'm just going to use USPS. So I'm going to get the carrier ID from that for USPS or stamps.com. And then I'll plug it in right here. I don't know if that is the correct one or not because that's in their example. So I'll put that there. And then I'm going to add a section under here. It's not currently in here. It's actually further down in their list. I'm going to plug it into this example. This is the one I want to use. And I'm going to plug in the service codes for USPS. So the service codes is the package type. So you have like priority mail, first class mail, and then you have USPS has a ton of different service codes. So the one I'm actually going to use is USPS priority mail. That's the only one I want to use for this because I don't want for this tutorial we don't need to call a ton of different things right now. So anyway, this one I'm going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and move this back out of the way and then copy and paste it in. I did want to note, you don't have to copy and paste this. That's being pulled from your headers. So you just copy from here downward. Okay. So there we go. All right, let me grab that. Oop, too far, way too far. work with me. All right. Okay, so there is my body for my call that I'm going to be using here. All right, so again, I want to go and look and grab my carrier ID for USPS and make sure those two are the same, and if not, replace it. Let's see here. Where did that get off to here? There it is. Yeah, it's not the same. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. So now I'm getting the carrier ID for USPS, so I'll only be pulling data from them. And then I'll scroll down through here. Once further down the list, the little piece that I want to add in. So I'm not gonna hunt around for that. I'm just gonna manually input it real quick. So let's see. I want to do make sure I'm okay. So that's service underscore codes and colon. Oops, colon. And let's see here. Okay. And then I want to do all right. Should be good to go there. Make sure everything adds up. Yep, I think that's right. And I can format it in case there's any formatting that's not correct, which looks like there is. Let's see here. Unknown formatting error. I'm going to look back through here real quick. That's probably it right there. Nope, still not it. Oh, I see what it is. I didn't close that. Yeah, that's kind of important. Sometimes you have to look at it for a little bit. There we go. That should be right. Let's try that again. No, still getting an error. I see it. Okay. I think this is it. Just making little mistakes here. Not paying attention. There we go. Yeah, it's important that you put the pieces in the right place, or it's not going to work. So anyway, all right. So now I'm getting USPS carrier code, and then of course I'm getting the USPS priority mail. So it'll return the cost of shipping for priority mail based off of my call. All right, so that's good to go. So down here, so again, I just copied and paste all this stuff. We're not going to validate address. We're doing no validation on that. This is the ship to address, so this would be the customer, obviously. So what we're going to do here in just a second is we're going to set some variables and plug them in through here. We could set it up in the checkout where the customer could indicate whether their address is residential or business, because shipping prices can vary based on whether it's a residential or business address. But I'm not going to allow them to make that decision. We're going to ship only to residential addresses, so we're going to leave that as yes. And then this would be shipped from, which would be the marketplace owner, would be their ship from. And then obviously address residential indicator is no, because you're shipping from a business. And then weight and value and unit and all these things, we're not going to use that. I could just take that out if I wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just leave it there. But we're not going to be referencing any of that because USPS priority mail goes off of it typically goes off of the box itself, and I'm trying to think, it's if you can fit it in that box and it doesn't weigh over a certain amount, like you're given a maximum limitation. They don't base the price off the shipping price off of the weight of the package. You have guidelines given to you based off of which USPS priority mail service or box that you use, and then if it fits in that box, then it's just one price. It's flat rate. So we're not going to have to worry about weight or anything like that. All right, so this is all good to go here now. So what we need to do next then is we do need to set our variables. So that's what we're going to do now. Something important to note is that the way ShipEngine is set up, down here, the ship from, since it is a business, there are parameters that have to be set. So, for instance, I could remove name if I wanted to here. I wouldn't have to put a name in there for the receiver or a phone. Some of these things are optional. But for a business, you do have to have a name and a company name. So you have to have both. You do have to have a phone. And obviously you have to have the rest of the stuff. So in the business fields, they have to all be filled out, whereas in the ship to fields, not all of them are mandatory. All right. So let's move on to our variables. So if you need to duplicate variables, which we will, but we want them to be independent of each other. So like if I put in a variable name, even if I make two variables with the same name as name, it's only going to show me one of those variables when I'm going back over here to put them in. So to differentiate between them, you can put like customer name and then business name, or seller name, customer name. That way you have access to both of those variables, so you can plug them into the correct spot. Otherwise, if you only have one name variable and it's for the customer, then the customer, Amanda Miller, is going to receive a package from Amanda Miller. It's going to be pulling from the same variable. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on this here. So the first variable, I'm going to work with the ship to address, so that'd be the customer address. So I'm going to do the customer name, the string, and then we'll do, let's see here, I'll list over here, customer phone, and I'm going to set that as a string as well. And customer address line 1. We'll do customer city. Customer state. Customer zip. That's an integer. Customer country. And let's see here. And then we'll the last thing in the selection is the address residential indication. which we're not going to give them the option to be able to choose whether it's residential or business. We'll just set that as true or as yes in the code over here. So, all right, so those are all the variables that I need for the customer, and I'm going to repeat all this basically and just change from customer to seller to get all the seller variables. But I'm going to pause the video and do that so I'm not taking up a bunch of time here. All right, so I finished filling out those variables, and now I've got the seller information in here. So got all these variables now, so we need to go back to the body of the API call, and you can see that we've got these variables up here, and these are drag and drop. So we want to go in and drag them into the place where they need to be. So so what we do is just go here, and we'd erase that, and then drop customer name in there. Make sure you're on the left side of the comma. And so you just go down the line, placing each bit of information in here. So just placing it where it belongs, each one of them down the customer, and then once you get down to the seller, do the same thing. Because I have this set up again to use just USPS, I would set this up so that the seller and the buyer, there's no international shipping, so they'd have to be within the US. So I actually wouldn't set this as variable. I just leave it written as US. And then as noted for address residential indicator, this would be set as yes, it would not be a variable. And this one would be set as no, not a variable, and that's set as US. So I'm not going to go through and put all these variables through here. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You just replace that with the variable, and you get rid of the quotation marks here, because when you drop this variable in there, it'll automatically put quotation marks on either side of it. So I think that kind of makes sense. If that is at all confusing, you let me know, but I think that's good to go. So what I'm going to do at this point, now that I've showed this side of things, I'm actually going to pause the video and jump back over to my API that's working over here. Not actually use this one because I didn't put my API key in this. I'm going to go back to that one, and I'm going to go into the response and test section, and we'll go over it from there as to what we want to do on that side of things. Okay, so now I'm over here in my active API. So we can take a look at this. And variables, the names of the variables may be different than what I had in the test copy because I set this up earlier, but it's still the same layout. So now I'm in response and test. So I already got a response here, but let's kind of take a look at this. So the variables that I am going to use when testing, and it'll be the same variables that I will call upon when utilizing the API in the actual app, is I will be using the customer's name, phone, address, line 1, city, state, postal code, which is zip code. I won't use country code because that's set statically. It's not dynamic to a variable. This is unnecessary because that is also set statically. Company name does not have to be set, but I'd probably just do it like that. But yeah, company name is optional, but I'm going to have it in there. Company phone, company address, line 1. I'm not going to use line 2. City for company, state for company, zip code for company. This is static. And then owner name or company owner name. This has to be filled. If you try and leave that blank, it'll throw an error on the API call. So you must have something in there. So anyway, these are all the things I've got set to be able to do a test. My ship to address is in New York. It's the Empire State Building. And then my ship from address is in California, and that's Google's address. So if we go up here and we test our API call, see that it returned a success. Status code 200 is a success for them. And so when it returns its success, it gives you quite a bit of information in here. Quite a bit. It's a lot. And this is only for just one carrier and one package type, the priority mail. Ship Engine even states that once you start dealing with multiple carriers and multiple different package types, that the return value can get pretty ridiculous because it's pulling back so much data. But there's a lot of useful information in here. Now, for what we're doing, we're only going to be using just a small piece of it. But if you wanted to translate this into creating shipping labels automatically, or return any of these other values, either on the marketplace side, if you wanted to give them any of these values on the marketplace side, or if you wanted to show these values to the customer, you could. But you can see like delivery day, 2 days, guaranteed service false, estimated delivery date, it gives you that, shipping date. So it gives you a lot of good information for grabbing that shipping rates and everything that goes along with it. But again, we're not going to be using most of this for this tutorial. So what I do want to use, I'm going to go down here, my JSON path, so I'm going to go over here to recommended, and after you run a test and get a successful return, then down here under recommended, it'll give you this massive list of things that it recommends you use. And basically it's just all the paths associated with all the data that was returned in that call. And so you can like go through here and figure out what of that data you want to use inside the app. I'm not using any of this because I don't need any of that. And you can see that it sets it as a list automatically, which is nice. But the one that I am actually going to use here is this one, where I got it selected. And the path is right there. It gives me my shipping rates. I mean, that's all that I want is that number right there. $10.07. That's what I'm wanting. Which again, with flat rate shipping, it's going to be pretty consistent across the board. But whenever you start doing like shipping by weight or by dimensions, that number would definitely be different. But anyway, this just kind of show you how Shipping Engine works. So anyway, I would find what I want in this list. That's the one I want. I select it, and then I can go back over here to selected, and you'll see that that path is here now. And then I can do this preview right here, and it'll show you what data is returned, what data that has been returned by that API call is included in the path that I want to use. So you can see it, currency amount 1007 and $14, $8.10, $18.95. So it gives me a variety of numbers to use price wise, which again, I'm just going to use this right here, amount 1007. That's all I'm worried about. All these other numbers, not concerned with them for this tutorial. All right, so again, my call is working. I've got my path set. I've got the information that I want. I've got all my variables selected and everything that I want to use. I've got them defined in the call. So the call is ready to go. I'll go ahead and save it here. And so now it could be used over in the app itself, which I'm going to go ahead and stop this tutorial and get this thing loaded up. And I will do the other tutorial showing how I'm making use of this API call inside the app.